You know what's interesting, Jay?
All the crap that you just got through spouting over the airwaves.
Excuse me?
Because you talked over me and potted me down. People don't know how you play this game with not allowing a person to speak their side.
No, Jay, I'm letting you speak your side right. Everybody knows you've been on hold, brother. Otherwise, you'd be screaming and hooting and hollering in that angry tone.
The fact remains, the arrogance of your white supremacy is that you think because you fought a war that you give me my humanity. That
Jay, you fool! I didn't fight a war, and neither did you.
No, that's what I'm saying. The sickness of white America is believing that you granted me something that God gave me. You cannot say that I'm not a man because you put me in chains. And then you have the gall to say...
Jay, you know what's so sad? You've never been in chains, brother. Get over yourself. You've never been in chains. I'll guarantee you grew up with more money than I did. I'll guarantee you grew up with more opportunities than I did. And if you and I were applying for a job, a scholarship, or a seat in school, you moved ahead of me even if your score was worse than mine. Stop that. That's ridiculous. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You might have put me in chains. You ain't never been in chains, you fool, unless you were down in county lockup. Let me quote a black man that I respect, because you're not one. Allen West, ahead of the August 28th dedication of the new MLK Jr. Memorial, National Journal is running a series of interviews with America's leaders discussing Dr. King's legacy. Congressman Allen West says, quote, "If Dr. King were to come back and see what has become of the black community, he would be appalled. The exorbitantly high unemployment rate, the second and third generation welfare families, the rampant decimation of the inner city black community, the incarceration rate of young black men, and the breakdown of the black family would all bring a tear to his eye. The black community is now existing on a new plantation, a 21st century plantation that enslaves their will and conscience. Actually, worse than physical slavery. We have gone backwards from Dr. King's dream. Regardless of certain individual success stories, collectively we are failing. We have not overcome." Now, let me ask you, Jay.
That is something I can't agree with.
Of course not.
Very simply. Because the fact still remains. As I tried to tell you, as you talk over me and
yeah, we got that. It's my show. I'm going to talk over you every time.
And that's fine, because you can't stand with someone with intelligence to combat you in this idiocy. What I'm saying to you very simply is this. Despite the fact, for 100 years, from 1863 to 1963, black people had absolutely nothing, less than nothing. And in less than 4 decades, we are now inhabiting the White House, and you disrespect the man every day. But this is why, even after all this, after 400-plus years, when you will really try, and that's what I'm going to ask you today, not adopt a black child, but when you really try to hand and elevate the least of this society, that is supposed to be the Christian ethic that this country claims to profess. When you do not spend money to educate black and Hispanic children in the barrio, you are driving your country into the ditch. I don't agree with having this whole welfare mentality. Hello?
Yeah, no, I'm letting you talk.
I'm saying to you that you can't.
I heard you, Jay. Let me tell you this. You know what the Christian thing to do is? Teach a man to fish, not give him one. We are spending insane amounts of money on food stamps and education and free food and unemployment and welfare. We're spending more now than we've ever spent before. The more we spend, the poorer people get. That's not the Christian thing to do. That's called slavery, sir. You don't grasp that. That's called slavery. We're doing it in the name of the charlatans in the Democrat Party who want to control the lives of poor black people. And you will hold them up as heroes, and I will hold them up as clowns. They talk like clowns. They act like clowns. You want to criticize me? I'm going to tell you something, Jay. I'll be dead and gone. You could wipe every white person off the face of this earth. You would still have the Maxine Waterses. You would still have the Sheila Jackson Lees. They would still be sucking the blood out of black folks in this country. And you don't want me criticizing them because you haven't learned that if you actually love people in this country, you would stop destroying them with these programs.
Michael,
Yeah.
you said, which you mischaracterized my statement. I am not talking about the programs. I am talking about the results. The people do not get the money. The white middle class has been made for 80% of all those dollars you're talking about. Those doctors, teachers, social workers were predominantly white American citizens. And from the 60s and the 70s, they set up shop. You might want to call them liberals. And I might agree with you on a political perspective, Mr. Berry. But black folks didn't control the programs nor the system. We don't decide how the tax money is spent. Would you at least agree on that?
No.
Oh, come on, man. The handful of black folk you're talking about that are elected do not control the bureaucrats and the people in the programs. The folks that work in those programs, the folks that work in those jobs were white Americans.
No.
The majority of everybody who makes money off of these welfare and poverty programs that you're talking about are white middle class.
Okay, good.
People.
Then we can end them, right? Then we can end all these programs.
I have no problem with that. I'm saying to you, redirect the money to do what we're actually supposed to be done.
You can't do that. You cannot do that.
A skill. What happened to woodshop? What happened to tech classes? What happened to auto mechanics?
You can't do that, sir. You cannot do that. And let me tell you this. You want to know where the money's going? Threaten to take it away and see who starts screaming.
Vulnerable.
You threaten to take away the government expenditures and you see where the money's coming, or you see where the money's going. You know what, Jay? I thought you were a bad person when you called. I don't anymore. I think you actually care. I think you actually want to see improvement in our society. But if you can't see what these people and their message is doing, when you refer to the fact that we finally got our guy in the White House after 4 generations, that means he's not the president of this country. He's the president of the black people. And you know what? That's the whole problem. That's the whole problem. The white people that voted for him didn't vote for him to be king of the black people. And anybody that didn't vote against him is not a racist. But apparently you and a lot of other people, because you're too smart to talk stupid, apparently you and a lot of other people did elect him on the basis that we'll have our guy in there because he's just like us. That's your word, sir, not mine. That's just a fact. And that, to me, is the breakdown. We're not making that much progress. There you are, obviously educated, obviously relatively successful. And where does it take us? You still refer to people by their skin color. All you see people as is white Americans, not Americans. You don't want to be an America made up of citizens of that country. You still see a divide and always will. And you're still wanting to see programs targeting blacks. That's just a fact, sir. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm not for the social programs. I don't care who's getting it. You're seeing it as, well, too many white people getting the majority of it. Which I don't know why I quibble, but I can't stand to let a falsehood be thrown out there and stand unchallenged. First of all, Sheila Jackson Lee and a number of other black congressmen have made the point that when you cut the federal bureaucracy, it's going to hit minorities harder because minorities are represented in the federal bureaucracy. Sheila Jackson Lee and the other black politicians will make the point that if you cut welfare, that's racism because you know who's getting welfare. It's black people. So either you're wrong or she's wrong, and I tend to trust her on this one thing. I mean, let's look at where the dollars are going. And if they're not helping black people and we're spending all this money and black people are paying taxes on it, why don't we eliminate all these programs and stop enslaving all these white people that are getting all these benefits? Listen, sir, I'm not for it if it's for white people. You identify me with Appalachians, I think you might be a racist.